Good morning from New York, and good afternoon and good evening to all participants who are joining us from countries in Latin America, the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, and Asia. Welcome to today's event, South-South Exchanges on Sustainable and Cultural Tourism in World Heritage Cities in Latin America and the Caribbean. My name is Muriel Lobon, and I have the honor to guide you through our program. Today's event is co-organized by the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, UNOSSC, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, with its representative in Mexico. This webinar aims to bring together representatives of international organizations and cities partners from Latin America and the Caribbean to exchange good practices and experiences in sustainable tourism, including the particular measures taken to protect world cultural and natural heritage to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are also here to discuss the role and potential of South-South cooperation, South-South and triangular cooperation in the growth and recovery of the tourism sector in cities. The third objective of this event is also to facilitate partnerships brokering among multiple stakeholders from the Global South for sustainable and cultural tourism in cities. Having said that, I would like to welcome Frédéric Vacheron, representative of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, in Mexico, to deliver his opening remarks. Mr. Vacheron, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Muriel. Thank you. I respectfully agree with all the personality that accompany us and also all our colleagues and friends, authorities and representatives of the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, the National Association of Mexican World Heritage Cities, and other guests and personalities that accompany us from the Union of Ibero-American Capital Cities and friends countries as Chile, Cuba, Brazil, and Peru. Also greetings to all our colleagues who are listening us and supporting us from China. I want to express on behalf of UNESCO and all my team my sincere thanks for all the support you have given to UNESCO Mexico. Recently, in March 2020, the global tourism industry hit a record low. When all international borders were closed due to the pandemic, the United Nations World Tourism Organization projected a 60 to 80 reduction in international arrivals by 2020. Tourism, as we know, is an important source of growth, employment, and income for many countries, especially for developing countries and small islands and small states. And reviving this sector is one of the main concerns for governments around the world. UNESCO recently participated very actively in the Tianguis Turístico, the most important event for the Mexican tourism industry, and a business forum which took place in November 16th and 19th in Mérida, Yucatan. The rebirth of tourism was the motto of the event and is what we are all waiting for since the nightmare of the global COVID-19 pandemic began. UNESCO actively participated in this Tianguis since this period of isolation has to serve us not only to think how to reactivate touristic activity, but also to stake out about the mistakes that we have made in the past and take steps not to repeat them. The COVID-19 pandemic, which continues to circulate all around the world, is affecting almost every aspect of everyday life, including the very human need to connect to culture. With many of the World Heritage sites closed for a long period due to the pandemic, the connection to our heritage was weakened. The same happened with our human interaction with the large number of intangible cultural practices that were disrupted. In heritage sites, even before the start of the current crisis, there were challenges facing sustainable tourism. For example, the concentration of mass tourism in some destinations caused conflict between tourists and local communities. We cannot return to mass tourism that destroys local ecosystems, puts valuable cultural resources at risk, and generates dysfunctions in the life of communities. Local authorities are rethinking ways to regulate tourism in iconic cultural sites through the diversification of cultural offerings, to invest in strategies that promote sustainable tourism without negatively affecting local communities and economy. The virtual seminar that brings us together today soft exchanges on sustainable and cultural tourism in the World Heritage Cities of Latin America and the Caribbean, is the perfect framework to reevaluate these approaches to tourism. In the immediate plain, many governments around the world are prioritizing domestic tourism by 2022, which could mean the reconnection of communities and countries with their own culture. However, international travel and contact with other communities is an important means of discovering culture and civilization, promoting an appreciation of cultural diversity and building intercultural dialogue for a more peaceful world. It's important to mention another priority of our work. We must promote a kind of tourism that fosters not only economic growth, but also social inclusion. As mentioned at some point by the Minister of Tourism of Mexico, Miguel Torruco, tourist paradises cannot continue to coexist with health or marginalization. This idea expresses the great contradiction in which many of the World Heritage sites live. We have a terrible paradox that some of the richest peoples in culture, heritage, languages, and biodiversity are places where marginalization and high degree of poverty prevail in many cases. Although cultural and natural resources represent opportunity and responses to fundamental challenges, economic models that ignore or eroded them often waste these. The integration of culture in tourism and development projects should reinforce the link between traditions and social well-being, economic growth, and environmental conservation. It is the approach that UNESCO Mexico develops in our all sustainable tourism project with the Mexican authorities, civil society, local communities, and the private sector. In addition to this important project, South Cities Exchange, UNESCO is currently implementing a large project in the Southeast Mexico that will support the Maya communities of 5 states of the Republic. These 2 projects, having common main objectives, will support and strengthen each other. As you know, UNESCO is the UN agency specialized in education, culture, social sciences, natural sciences, and communication. The combination of experience in this field allows us addressing an interdisciplinary and, better said, transdisciplinary way to confront the challenges of today. Special attention should be paid to heritage conservation. With such a framework, World Heritage Sites should be spaces in which the human rights approach is constantly reinforced, in particular the rights related to our mandate, the right to education, the right to science, the right to information, and above all, cultural rights, traditionally very little considered in development projects. With this project, and thanks to the support of our colleagues from the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, we want to focus on the South-South mutual learning and the creation of alliances to take advantage of digitalization for the growth of tourism and the recovery of cities after the global pandemic. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, UNESCO Mexico, and National Association of Mexican Cities of World Heritage carry out the project South-South Cooperation for the development of sustainable tourism in the Mexican World Heritage Cities. In order to improve the capacity of local authorities, small and medium-sized enterprises and communities to achieve sustainable growth and the recovery of the tourism sector. This pilot initiative, which will culminate next year, will facilitate the development of the value chain of the tourism sector and will focus at all the times on the communication of the outstanding universal values of cities and on the construction of a digital strategy for the promotion of sustainable development. The central element of this initiative is a South-South knowledge exchange, the creation of a partnership between cities and institutions, mutual learning and digital transformation to advance the development of sustainable tourism between cities in Mexico, China, and other countries. The project aims at providing special attention to development of capacity in the use of digital technologies to their relevance and importance for the development of tourism after the COVID-19 pandemic. The participation of our office in this important initiative has focused on 2 studies that were based on the preparation and conduct of surveys, interviews, and other means of gathering information with expert authorities, communities, and key agents to identify the needs of the cities. The first study aim to develop a training and capacity building program for government authorities, civil society, and private initiative regarding the knowledge and management of the basic concept of World Heritage, particularly the outstanding universal value that motivated the inscription of the cities on the World Heritage List. This study also includes the preparation of a catalogue of good practices of initiatives, program or project in which the outstanding universal value has been adequately incorporated. We should remind that in 2022, the World Heritage Convention marks its 50th anniversary. The 1,154 natural and cultural heritage sites in over 160 countries are the testament to the universal appreciation and achievement of this groundbreaking legal framework. The second study aimed to know the digital capacity or needs of the Mexican World Heritage cities, specifically with regard to their digital tourism promotion strategy. Dear colleagues, culture and creative industry are increasingly used to promote destination and enhance their competitiveness and attractiveness. Crafts, for example, are often the main source of income for communities and individuals who will otherwise remain on the fringes of the economic system. UNESCO Mexico organized last week the first international forum on creative economies for development sustainable sustainable development that took place from November 25-27, 2021 in the city of Aguascalientes. Within the framework of the International Year of the Economy for Sustainable Development. We know that cultural tourism contributes in a very important way to the creative economy, considered one of the most dynamic economic activity in the world today. This topic will be at the center of the debates of the Great Intergovernmental Forum Mondiacult that will take place in Mexico next year. We know also that cultural activities generate decent jobs, and they are often carried out within the framework of the communities and families, which provides security and a sense of belonging, as well as being considered honorable jobs, as they are closely related to local identity. In the long term, this crisis invites us to design tourism models in which natural and cultural assets are valued and protected, where the perspective of the Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 Agenda is incorporated. The way of life of communities should not be interrupted, and their cultural tangible and intangible heritage be safeguarded, and the flourishing of creativity be encouraged. Thus, more resilient models of tourism are required, in harmony with the environment that protects livelihoods and from which the local community can benefit. On behalf of UNESCO, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the authorities and bodies involved in this important initiative, and I wish everyone an enriching exchange of ideas and knowledge during this seminar. Thank you very much.
So I would like to now briefly present a video synopsis of our event that today showcases the World Heritage Cities in Latin America and the Caribbean that will be exchanging knowledge in today's event. We now come to the main part of our event, where we begin our travel south of a cloud. There will be presentations and videos from cities representatives of Mexico, Chile, Cuba, Brazil, and Peru, and also the colleagues from the Union of Ibero-American Capital Cities, the UCCI. I would like to request all panelists to kindly ensure your microphone is off, particularly with the video presentations, and muted when others are presenting. I would also like to invite all attendees, all participants to today's event to kindly send questions through the Q&A window of our Zoom webinar, so that we will reply to them after all the presentations are done. So today we start our travel south of a cloud with Mexico. Our first speaker is our dear partner Jorge Ortega, the General Director of the Mexican World Heritage Cities Association. I think we will start with a video that they have prepared for us. And so let's start with that.
Los sitios del mundo que cuentan
world sites that have certain characteristics of universal value, outstanding universal value, have been included on the UNESCO list of World Heritage Sites.
Dentro de estos sitios se encuentran
These
las
sites include heritage cities.
México cuenta con 10 de
Mexico has 10 of these cities, which places us in 4th place at the world level and the 1st place in Latin America.
las ciudades mexicanas Patrimonio Mundial.
Mexican World Heritage Sites have a recognized historical value. They have people, traditions, and artistic expressions, and they belong to everyone. Since they are a legacy that is transmitted from generation to generation, recognizing the importance of these cities, in 1996, the National Association of Mexican World Heritage Sites was created. We promote the development of our World Heritage Sites, addressing not only national interests, but also those of the world, the entire world. The National Association of Mexican Heritage Sites, 25 years working on behalf of the wealth of Mexico, the heritage of the world.
Thank you so much for that. Now, as I mentioned before, I'll leave with you Jorge Ortega, the General Director of the Mexican World Heritage Cities Association. Adelante, Jorge.
Gracias, Muriel. Thanks very much for this opportunity to be with you in this exchange. Thanks, United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation and UNESCO Mexico for the project that we are working together. We, as you have seen, are celebrating 25 years of working towards promotion, preservation, diffusion of the heritage in Mexico. And for that reason, it's really a pleasure to share with you this South-South travel today. Tourism has grown to become one of the main sources of income in Mexico. In 2019, before the pandemic, accounted for 8.7% of GDP. So it's a very important industry for the whole country. According to the World Tourism Organization, 1.5 billion international tourists travel the world also before the pandemic. And half of them were motivated by cultural tourism. Cultural tourism can make the significant contributions to the socioeconomic development and most of all empowerment of local communities. For the World Tourism Organization, sustainable tourism is that takes into account economic, social, and environmental impacts, addressing the needs of visitors, the industry, the environment, and of course, of the communities. Cultural tourism is a clear example of a sustainable industry, as it takes into account the three factors of sustainability: environmental, sociocultural, and economic. Sustainable tourism must ensure the integration of sustainable consumption and production patterns in the tourism sector, as well as the diversity of opportunities offered by the local economy. This, we believe that it could be monitored through a cultural tourism observatory that does not exist so far, by conducting surveys with the community, with the visitors, authorities, and tourism service providers. In the project that we are participating together with UNESCO Mexico and UNOSSC, we perform certain questionnaires, a kind of observatory to find out the needs of the communities of SMEs. And it worked pretty well because we could find trends, we could find certain important information to help us define future actions. Digitalization, the demand for the individualized cultural experiences generates important opportunities for SMEs. Networking and clusters are very useful for SMEs to use their full potential by helping them overcome the disadvantages of being small businesses. In Mexican World Heritage Cities, only a few SMEs use digital services for online positioning or digital marketing. We just find that out through this survey. And next steps in this project will be precisely to perform certain kind of capacitation for these SMEs that are needing it. In Mexico, during the pandemic, we created the platform network for the reactivation of tourism. More than 400 SMEs were incorporated in this platform. And we believe that we can keep working with this platform to keep helping SMEs that live out of the touristic activities in Mexican World Heritage Cities. The UNESCO Declaration has the effect of attracting tourism, that's a fact, and the potential to improve also the image and profile of the Mexican World Heritage Cities as places to visit, to live and invest. So we have worked on actions to properly leverage the declaratory status with actions to balance the economic benefit to the locality and the maintenance of the authenticity and viability of Mexican World Heritage Cities. Also, to provide a structure and cohesion to the identity of the locality through the UNESCO logo. To implement actions for the conservation of the intangible heritage of Mexican World Heritage Cities for the safeguarding of the heritage as an asset for tourism. What is the relationship between tourism and cultural heritage management? It's very important, and we need to work permanently in this kind of actions to motivate community participation in traditional festivities as a way to preserve intangible heritage, as well as in the elaboration and revision of all plans and all different kinds of actions related to tourism in their communities. Publicize also the positive economic impact of creative industries. The economies of some cities are based on creative industries, such as crafts, music, dance, theater, visual arts, and traditional gastronomy. However, consumers in Mexico are nationals, and we still have few foreigners in these Mexican World Heritage Cities. It's well known that in Mexico we have a lot of tourists in that come here for sun and beach, but they don't come for cultural tourism. We have 95–97% of the tourists that visit these Mexican World Heritage Cities are nationals, and we want also the world to know all this cultural richness. In Mexico, the cities of Mexico, Morelia, Puebla, and Querétaro, in addition to being World Heritage Cities, are also creative cities. It is important to establish educational programs that accompany tourists, inviting them to respect and understand the way of life and culture of the locality. That's something that we work permanently on, promoting these tourists, but also to respect all the life of the community and to take proper actions for the livability of historical centers. We have built a festival that we organize every year, and it has the aim to promote crafts, music, dance, theater, gastronomy, and also to foster the participation of local communities and to develop regional attractiveness. It's very important for us that the communities that host these Mexican World Heritage Cities are aware and understand the universal exceptional values that were identified and were considered by UNESCO for the inscription in the World Heritage list. We, through this project with the Office of United Nations for South-South Cooperation, are going to work very strongly with the communities so they can understand these outstanding universal values and to build the strategies for diffusion and for promotion around these outstanding universal values. So for us, this project has been very, very important because we have found out that even the localities, the communities of these cities are not aware or do not understand very well the outstanding universal values that were recognized by UNESCO. So I think in the next phase, next year, that we are going to continue with this project is going to be very helpful to establish the basis for the future work of our organization. As I mentioned, we just celebrated the 25th anniversary, and we hope to keep working not by ourselves, but together with this kind of exchange with international organizations and of course with all the colleagues from Latin America. Thank you very much.
Next up is Mauricio Cifuentes. We are traveling to Chile. He's the director of the Valparaíso Creative Program and the representative of the National Network of Creative Territories of Chile. Querido Mauricio, te paso la palabra.
Bueno, mi nombre es Mauricio.
Very well, my name is Mauricio. As Mariel was saying, I am representing Chile, specifically the Valparaíso region. We, since 2018, yes, I believe 2018, we have the UNESCO appointment for Valparaíso, specifically in the topic of music. Valparaíso, obviously, nowadays, we are a program that is focused in articulating the efforts from the public sphere as well as the private sector for the development of creative economies. So this program comes about from Corfo. Corfo is a state body that is quite large, which has a lot of tools to have the productive promotion, to develop companies, and to specialize in innovation. And in this specific setting, through transformative programs that support each area of each region in Chile. So we've focused and decided that Valparaíso, which is a port that was one of the main ports for the Pacific coast, and then we focus on creative economies there. You can say, why not for logistics or agriculture? Because Chile has a lot of power on this, but because since we are a port city, we have symbols from globalization, early symbols, and that's why since 2003, it was classified at the UNESCO level as a World Heritage City by UNESCO. Valparaíso, where different colonies that also lived at the port start to develop themselves, start to grow, and obviously they start to show their culture, their traditions, their livelihoods, and obviously this permeates into different expressions, cultural and creative expressions, specifically in this case, the topic of music. As for the pandemic context, specifically, I want to thank you for inviting us, UNESCO, for all the management done by Muriel, who has supported us to be able to reach today to this activity. So one thing that we've learned strongly, I think we all know basically what the pandemic has meant for us in our countries and our territories. Perhaps it's not good to say that we've not been doing that well, but the most important thing is to mention how do we overcome this? And in the case of Valparaiso specifically, we've been able to overcome this through a collaborative work. The logic behind this event, a South-South collaboration, talks about this. So we are a public-private program. In the circle, you have all the members of this program. We have chambers of commerce, public bodies, universities, regional governments, musicians associations, etc. However, the pandemic, during this time, something very interesting happened. All territories, Chile, I don't know if you know about it, but it's a very long territory, very thin and long, and it's divided by several regions. Given that we had a telematic communication, we started to find ourselves in a space called the National Network of Creative Territories. And that network, we see very interesting things that emerge from the pandemic. And that's where we started to see something very interesting. Nowadays, the National Network right now is having the opening of the National Network of Creative Territories that was promoted within this pandemic. And nowadays, it's a very strong network that has a public-private setting, and it's driving actions. The fact that I am here is thanks to that network. Therefore, I believe that in this very brief time that I have with you, I can share most of our lessons learned. I think the most important thing that we learned from the pandemic is that we went back to collaborate, people in collaborative spheres, people who had awareness that we cannot move forward if we don't have the support of other parties. So we have creative countries, people from different areas with experience in culture, and we're linked to the business, enterprise, innovation, creativeness. Therefore, Valparaiso Musical has been a challenge since the tourist side. In Chile in general, tourism is understood as a traditional solidarity tourism. So the most focused and focalized experience of tourism and creative or cultural experiences is even harder to embed it in the public agenda. Therefore, it's been a challenge there. But given this collaboration work and also given to the articulation that we have been generating, promoting, the institutions that are focused on tourism have been working together with us, and also the media. The media has found some seductive aspect from the creative experience beyond traditional tourism, as I was sharing earlier. Nowadays, the biggest effort, I just want to show you this further, is to show the impact of music and the economic indicators and tourism indicators. That's why the program, since several years now, has been developing research, different analysis, studies to precisely be able to clarify the large impact that this activity generate in the local economic development. Here we have some posters of some studies. Here we have the Orange Book for Music that really collected information about the musical activity within Valparaiso. We also are generating here a study of the value chain behind music, from a person who starts with a creative activity all the way to reaching an industry and the distribution of its music in a more developed setting. Something that is very important as a program, and also that it's a big challenge, is to work with other organizations. Yet we need to generate in Valparaiso a creative district where entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, need to understand that it's not just a place to go sit down and listen to music. It's very important that we need to visualize this territory as a territory where I come to grow, where I enjoy, where I come to grow, where I develop some specialization. I train on topics that are associated to creative economy. And that's where we start talking about a creative district, a place where things happen. So after the social boom, there was a very difficult period we had a few years ago in Chile. Valparaiso was quite damaged after that, as many other Chilean cities. But nowadays, in addition to the pandemic, who came immediately after that, has been a challenge to push the city forward. But the city, as you will know, it has several elements of value, specifically based of its tangible, intangible heritage. And those who work with this, we see what the future holds regarding the development of creative economy. I just want to share with you, they asked me 7 minutes. So we've developed collaborative work with the UNESCO as a focal point. We work with them hand in hand. We're generating different events and activities that have a very strategic aspect. For instance, the one to your left, the festivity was a cycle of concerts or small concerts, small scale activities where we articulate the Ministry of Culture and Heritage, the official Ministry of Culture for Chile, together with, for instance, the company associated with mobility and different other institutions, to create a cycle of activities, creative activities. And this not just for Valparaiso, but it's in the metropolitan region. And this generates some traction. It's focused in promoting internal tourism. As you're all aware, the big problem with COVID is that it limits international travel. Therefore, where are our strategies focused on it? Of course, is not just to stand still, but how can we create new tourists? Internal tourism obviously has been a very good strategy. Valparaiso is 200 kilometers from the capital city, Santiago. Therefore, this type of strategy, of course, will compete with internal tourism, which is very attractive, and that could save us from a very complex time caused by the pandemic. Therefore, hopefully I did not exceed my time. I tried to be very brief. This is my contact information, Valparaiso Creativo, and we invite you to visit our website with all contents that we upload every week. And we're very grateful, UNESCO, for this invitation. And obviously, I'm more than open to future contacts and communication.
Now, we would like to present the video of Valparaiso.
Yo creo que Valparaíso es un laboratorio.
It's a lab. It's something that it's in constant movement.
Está siempre a punto de caer.
It's always about to topple over, but I don't know why it never topples.
Valparaíso siempre ha sido un polo
Valparaíso has always been a technological port. It's had a lot of important milestones in science, technology, development, and we try to take charge of that history behind Valparaíso.
Pienso que es una ciudad hermosa.
I believe it's a beautiful city with a lot of wind that allows you to renew ideas all the time, a city filled with artists that enable us to develop ideas and projects because we're all here together. So this is being exported to China, is well accepted, and we're about to export to Argentina.
Expresando todo lo que aquí he aprendido.
Identificamos los edificios.
We identify those buildings that are deteriorated, abandoned, to design modern projects from that. And those areas, these are contemporary architecture projects, and they have material, colors, and volumes that try to incorporate to its context. So this capacity Valparaíso has to accept the world and for the world to go here. We are a wild garden. This is a very beautiful city. Valparaíso for me, it's complex, creative, diverse, bare, natural, urban, all of it at the same time. The idea is Crab. It's a business that develops video games here, especially for Cartoon Network, Sesame Street. And part of our business here is that we have the business in this area. We wanted to stay here and generate employment in the city where we were born in.
Somos muchos los profesionales que día a día.
Several professionals that day to day, we wake up with a very good idea here in Valparaíso. We're all contributing.
De alguna manera,
to a certain extent, to this ecosystem of talents. Let's promote together the creative economy of the fifth region. Creative Valparaíso.
Now we will move to, we will continue our travel south of a cloud, and we're moving to Cuba. So I'm very glad to introduce you to Arsenio Santos Pantoja. He's the coordinator of the Network of National Offices for Conservation of Heritage Cities in Cuba. Estimado Arsenio, adelante con su presentación, por favor.
Arsenio, you have the floor.
Bueno, nada,
Well, I just want to thank you, as I was saying, I want to thank UNOSSC and UNESCO Mexico here. We have our presentation regarding the Cuban heritage cities. Here in Cuba, we know that we not only work in our own network with the heritage cities, but also we work with the national heritage cities. This is a network, if you will, more inclusive. Where I start with a phrase from Dr. Eusebio Leal, remembering, of course, about our teacher that who always defended the cultural heritage, tourism, the value of these economic and cultural resources, but also as economic resources to be able to move forward to the future in our heritage cities. And also it's very important the inclusion of society as part of all of this process. You can never just look at this project of tourism and cultural heritage without including the local community. And Leal posed a question, a phrase, which is very important, that always said, every project, development project that depends on culture, if they do not use culture, then they cannot prosper. Culture, above all, needs to promote our own development. So over here, the network of offices of the Historian Conservator of the Heritage Cities of Cuba, the organization that I am coordinating currently, we were established in December 2008 in order to promote all this network work for the Heritage City as part of our institution. We have 12 cities included within this network. Here I show them the entire setting where we work with our network of heritage cities. We have four historical centers that are included in the list of World Heritage, but we also have 2 cities who have a relationship with them. Some World Heritage like Santiago de Cuba with 2 declarations from UNESCO in its region, and the cultural landscape of Valle Viñales, which is also within the valley. We have the city of Viñales. Therefore, we also included these 6 cities in addition to the historical center of Old Havana, the city of Trinidad, Cienfuegos, and Campo Bay. We also work with the expressions that are included in the representative list of the material heritage of UNESCO in Cuba. We have 4 expressions that are included in this list, and we also work thanks to the background of Valparaíso. with a small sub-network of creative cities in Cuba. We already have 3 creative cities in Cuba: Havana for music, Trinidad in craft and cultural art, and Santiago de Cuba recently joining the list for creative cities of UNESCO under the music category. And here we have all 14 cities that have been declared national heritage, and we only need to include 2 more cities that we're still working on, and hopefully all cities are including as our Cuban heritage. Our network is characterized by having an office. It's not just the inclusion of the city itself, but each city we have an office that is in charge of managing the integral development of this historical center for this specific city where we are working on, and we focus our development lines on that. So here image of our beautiful city of Matanza and its historical center, the Cuban Athens. And these are our main lines. Specifically, the network is methodological work. It's an organization that is in charge of systematizing a Cuban school, Cuban module on how to manage heritage cities. To be the big leader, the teacher Eusebio Leal, since the 90s, we've been working on a Cuban model, a native model that enable us to express value and to establish a strategy for the integrated development of the World Heritage cities. And we're always talking about the integral development in order to have the 5 aspects of this development that we believe are important in this case. Most of the countries of the modules include economy, society, social setting, and the environment. But now we added to this 2 additional elements, and we work and we consider that they're strategic and they deserve a separate component, which would be institutionalization. And we consider that without that governance, without that institutional setting, our heritage cities cannot have the development that we wish. And then culture as a very independent element. Oftentimes we see it that is linked to society, but this time we are establishing strategies in the setting of culture and to strengthen strategies under the social setting. In this sense, one of our strategies is to develop the heritage cities and to develop tourism that is sustainable, responsible, inclusive, and the heritage, tangible heritage, as well as intangible heritage, and their links with the community, native community of those sites. So in this sense, as part of this work of more than 25 years of work in managing our heritage cities, we believe that we've been able to achieve best practices or good ideas that we need to highlight. In this sense, for instance, in the promotion of the recognition and protection of cultural heritage value. And this is what visitors and residents identify in our own cities, the cultural exchange between visitors and residents, the promotion of the heritage cities. They were pioneering the private public infrastructure. And also the heritage cities having a key example in this development of the sector and private and public efforts in Cuba. Also to rescue traits, traditions, and elements of local identity. So each city can have its seal. So each city can maintain their authenticity. So they're not the same, but to have mechanisms or work guidelines from different aspects, and also the cultural supply or to promote access, physical accessibility. That's something that we've been working on, everything regarding access, physical access, the inclusion of people with disabilities. And we're also developing a line regarding digital cities, that vision towards a smart tourist destination And one of the main features we created since the 90s, also the travel agency specialized in tourism, specifically for Cuban heritage cities, and that's the San Cristobal travel agency established in 1996. And this is a travel agency specialized in everything associated with cultural and historical tourism. And that's why we're defending this vision. This is its own vision. The agency created this vision to structure our heritage cities network in Cuba. So these, for instance, are some of the products that our travel agency San Cristobal trades as part of the value that we give to our heritage city from a specialized agency's point of view. Here we have also an image of the historic center of Santiago de Cuba, the most Caribbean Cuban city, the east side of this country. And to wrap up, I just want to mention some of the challenges that we still have in our Cuban heritage cities and all the effort and the scope and desire of that sustainable tourism that we all wish to have. For instance, we believe that it's essential to identify, to have the continuous systematization of everything associated to values and the potential of our heritage cities. This needs to be a constant assessment. We always have to focus on those values, because in the rediversification of the cultural offer, as the representative of UNESCO Mexico, is how can we achieve that cultural diversification? It should be done through the identification of communication of all those values and potentials that we have in order to truly achieve the diversification of our products. Also to deepen, this is a challenge that we have in Cuba and several cities, to deepen the studies on carrying capacity, the risk management of our heritage cities. It's very interesting and very important work that we need to do within our strategies and our work. We have several experts doing their PhD studies on this topic. Also, we believe that it is strategic to monitor and implement special development plan, which is a Cuban instrument that we're using with our heritage city, and their alignment with other sector plans and other plans that include other heritage sites. So also to strengthen the ongoing strengthening of the interaction between actors that intervene in heritage cities from, say, the heritage standpoint and the city standpoint, and the tourism authorities perspective and other stakeholders, to design a communication strategy, which is very important nowadays as part of this tourism reactivation after the pandemic in Cuba. Tourism is one of the essential sectors of our economy, and we reached a standstill within all our trade. And therefore, this is to help our heritage cities. I always share the example of Viñales and Trinidad, which are two cities who also have around them agricultural zones. And this has been one of the times where we've seen way on how to look for local products, how to strengthen local partnerships. A lot of entrepreneurs in the settings of restoration, and they started to plant vegetables, and they try to look for those local product and to defend our local products. This has also been positive for our heritage cities, because right now we're at a good position. And to wrap up, that permanent drive that we need to have from different perspectives of that relationship between visitors and community. This is an important element, and we need to create several projects so the community itself, the resident community, is part of it, and they're not excluded from that touristic offer, and to have the international cooperation and create other strategic partnerships to be able to develop the development projects for our territory that foster this relationship. So I want to thank all our colleagues here And we're more than welcome to establish any partnership, work lines with Mexico and other Mexican cities. And we're always here to work together.
Muchísimas gracias, Arsenio, for presenting the work of the network of Cuba's heritage cities. And now we would like to have a bit more of Cuba with a beautiful video of La Habana. Thank you so much to the city of Cuba. And now, before going to our next presentation, I would like to encourage our audience to drop any questions in the Q&A window box that we have in Zoom. We will then address them after the presentations. Our next presenter is Mr. Mário do Nascimento, who is the president of the National Association of Touristic and World Heritage Cities of Brazil. Querido Mário, com muito prazer lhe dou a palavra.
Good morning to all attendees, all participants of this important event. I am very happy to be here under the invitation of UNOSSC and Muriel Lebon that sent us the invitation. It's great to get to know a bit more about the work that the other World Heritage Association in Latin America and the Caribbean are doing. I'm going to try to speak Spanish today, so it is a bit more easier for interpretation, so you can understand me better. I will kindly request my colleagues and directors of the association, Ligia Walper, that is in Florianopolis, and my colleague Marta Feisosa, who is in Brasilia. So I will ask my colleagues to project the presentation on the screen, please. I think you can all listen to me well. Well, we have created the organization of the World Heritage Cities in Brazil with the objective to strengthening the communication and the work of the cities in the country. This is the list of the World Heritage Sites in Brazil since 1980. Until 2021. There are 15 cities and sites of World Heritage, and 7 of them are from natural World Heritage sites, World Heritage Sites in Brazil, and also World Heritage Mixed Sites in Brazil. Paraty, Ilha Grande, about culture and biodiversity. The objectives of the OCBPM are management and technical improvement of CPM to qualify performance of their activities, projects to develop tourism and culture in the local and regional environment of the CPM. In order to achieve the objectives, OCBPM may sign agreements and create partnerships and promote more communication and coordination. The lines of action of the organization are to preserve and enhance the historical, cultural, and natural heritage, and also to promote historical, cultural, and natural heritage. For that, governance is very important. The organization has several lines of action. Among them are the initiatives involving historic centers and natural parks, aiming to achieve dynamism in terms of social, cultural, and touristic dynamism of the several locations. Also in centers with great potential for generating wealth, work, and income. Also among our initiatives, there are great potential among the national parks, the historic centers and national parks. We utilize our synergy and with networks of cooperation between government, communities, and private sector for the support of public policy to preserve, to promote, and integrate the city in a process of inclusive and sustainable development. Our association also has several strategic partners, many strategic partners, involving public and private sectors, such as municipalities, state government, federal government, private sector. All these partners who strongly support our association and our work. Among our priorities, we have the preservation of natural heritage and the historic and cultural heritage. Working together with tourism, involving competitiveness of the 23 World Heritage Sites and cities, aiming at, through tourism, to create employment, strengthen economy, the wealth, income, and sustainability. For the next years, there are several actions that the association is aiming at. The association was created in 2016 with several thematic seminars and events. In 2017, there was great support from the federal government of Brazil, which was a recognition from federal government to our association. Between 2018 and 2019, there was a continuity and implementation of new projects in the association. And there was a presidential decree, 9763, that recognized the association and supported the development of a national plan for tourism management of the world cultural and natural heritage of Brazil. In 2020-2021, the association focused on projects about touristic signage, interpretation centers, and construction of strategic partners agenda and the new cycle of strategic planning and governance. The interpretation center also had support from private sector and banks, such as the BNDES, the Sustainable National Bank, the National Bank for Sustainable Economic Development in Brazil. Now, in terms of our priority actions, there are key subjects regarding to environment, the heritage, historic and cultural heritage, material and immaterial historic and cultural heritage, tourism, competitiveness. The association also has opportunities and initiatives involving governance and management. The governance involves funding for the management of historical and cultural heritage, and also project modeling for national and international fundraising. Other possible work fronts of the association are projects, cultural products, technical studies, events, publications, research, seminar and congresses, books, missions, expos, training, and promotion. Several strategic action there are being development at the moment: touristic signalization, strategic planning of the association, financing for infrastructure, public lighting, paving, accessibility, airports, and several other initiatives. Marketing and promotion of tourism is also very important. Technical events and cultural events, qualification of governance and the public and private, and then the national tourism plan with the views to develop and organize and promote tourism related to heritage, both natural and cultural, world heritage in Brazil. We have several actions. We are very integrated with all partners. We are achieving great advances in terms of world heritage in Brazil. It's very important to create awareness and get involvement of local governments and state governments and national government to prioritize actions related to the preservation of the World Heritage sites and cities in Brazil. For 2022, the association aims to continue participating in national and international forums and discussions such as this, in order to exchange good practices and knowledge among World Heritage cities in Latin America and the Caribbean, and also World Heritage cities around the world. We are ready to continue contributing, creating partnership, and receiving information to contribute with the growth and the development of World Heritage cities in the world. Thank you for the opportunity of joining you today, and we will now present a video of the Brazilian World Heritage Cities.
OCBPM, Organização das Cidades Brasileiras Patrimônio Mundial. Turismo, patrimônio, cultura e meio ambiente como vetores para o desenvolvimento municipal. O Brasil conta com 23 sítios do Patrimônio Mundial Cultural e Natural reconhecidos pela UNESCO e representados pela Organização das Cidades Brasileiras Patrimônio Mundial, OCBPM. São 13 cidades com patrimônios culturais. São Miguel das Missões, com as Missões Jesuíticas Guarani, a cidade de Goiás e seu centro histórico, a cidade histórica de Ouro Preto, São Cristóvão e a Praça de São Francisco, o Centro Histórico de Olinda e o Centro Histórico de Salvador. Em Congonhas, temos o Santuário do Senhor Bom Jesus de Matozinhos. Belo Horizonte conta com o Conjunto Moderno da Pampulha. São Luís tem o Centro Histórico Tombado e Diamantina também teve o Centro Histórico Contemplado. Em São Raimundo Nonato temos o Parque Nacional Serra da Capivara. O Rio de Janeiro tem o Sítio Arqueológico do Cais do Valongo, o Sítio Burle Marques e as paisagens cariocas entre a montanha e o mar. Brasília, a capital federal, é patrimônio com o Plano Piloto. 2 cidades são declaradas patrimônio misto, Paraty e Angra dos Reis, reconhecidas mundialmente por suas belezas. Temos ainda os sítios declarados patrimônio natural, Foz do Iguaçu, com as cachoeiras do Parque Nacional, as reservas de Mata Atlântica, do Sudeste e da Costa do Descobrimento, as áreas protegidas da Amazônia Central, do Pantanal, do Cerrado, da Chapada dos Veadeiros e do Parque Nacional das Emas. Também as Ilhas Atlânticas brasileiras nas reservas de Fernando de Noronha e Atol das Rocas são reconhecidas. A diversidade de atrativos do Brasil realmente impressiona. Diante dessa potencialidade, a OCBPM trabalha para a valorização das riquezas naturais e culturais, através da promoção e implementação do turismo como propulsor do desenvolvimento econômico e social dos municípios contemplados. Para isso, a organização busca apoiar, desenvolver, gerir, organizar e planejar estudos, projetos, pesquisas e eventos que sejam do interesse destas cidades. Atua ainda na promoção dos destinos no mercado internacional, associando-os à cultura, à história e à exuberante natureza brasileira. Organização das Cidades Brasileiras, Patrimônio Mundial.
Next, we will present a video message from Luis Martin Bogdanovich. He's the president of the Peruvian World Heritage Cities Network, who had to attend another event related to South-South cooperation, but that wanted to be present in our event today. and talk about heritage cities in the sites of Peru. So let's play the video message.
Mi nombre es Luis Martín Bogdanovich y soy
My name is Luis Bogdanovich, and I'm the manager of the municipal program for the recovery of the historical center of Lima. I am in charge of coordinating the Peruvian network for World Heritage Cities, which is comprised of another 12 cities aside from Lima, Cusco and Arequipa. In the framework of the recommendations of the UNESCO World Heritage Site and international charters, we have been working on urban development plans and master plans for our historical sites, which do closely follow the recommendations of urban historic landscapes and the recovery and safeguarding of outstanding universal values that have made our cities included on the World Heritage Site. Cusco was first, and then there was Lima, which has a double administration. There's the municipality of Lima, and then the district Rimac municipality, and then lastly Arequipa. In the case of the Lima Historical Center, we approved a master plan for its recovery in a comprehensive and progressive fashion. In December of 2019, we began a very complex implementation period because of the pandemic. However, that has not stopped us from moving forward with strong strides in taking very important actions to recover this historic landscape. In the last 40 years, the historical center, we began to make 40 city blocks, pedestrian area, and we're going to be doing that in 41 blocks as well. So I think that this comparison is very eloquent in terms of the drive we're giving to the recovery of the city for our citizens, but also bearing in mind that each of the actions that we implement under the framework of this type of recovery for the historic landscape does have to be carried out following or bearing in mind that recovering these elements that have made our historical center be included in this list. In other words, when we intervene, we cannot just do it as we feel best, but the only way possible to recover these values that have been so important over time, repaving with cobblestone the streets, repairing public lighting, benches, and recovering native tree species in the historical center of Lima, the facades of the buildings, the materials, the construction methods, etc., the ways that the paving was done in Lima, and all of these different things that we do here under the framework of investing in public infrastructure, either for public spaces or whatnot, is always done bearing in mind the recovery of those elements that fully comprise this historical landscape. Aside from the material and tangible aspects, and now moving on to intangible, we have also been working on recovering festivals and cultural expressions of the older part of Lima, so that we can rebuild this landscape that in Lima's case has been so strong in the past 80 years. Finishing up with Lima, I would also like to say that aside from recovering these pedestrian areas, we also have 3 public spaces, 3 plazas, San Francisco, El Teatro, and Santo Domingo, and to recover the facades of 13 monumental churches from the 17th and 18th and 19th centuries. At one of them, we found a mural dated in 1696. We can also talk about recovering public sculptures of our city that will not only help us recover the space itself, but also recover our citizen dignity, so to speak. I would also like to talk about recovering the Rimac River. There are two elements in this historical landscape of Lima, which is the hill, the background, and the Limac River. We have a master plan to recover 4 kilometers of a river, and all of this will result in investment and public investment by the municipality in Lima to make the historical center a much more pleasant place to live, and where sustainable tourism can be implemented. In addition to that, I can also mention some actions that during the context of the pandemic we have done together with the other cultural heritage cities, such as Arequipa. For example, gastronomic bistros, as you can see here on the screen, before the pandemic, using the sidewalks and the public streets was prohibited in the historical centers. But now we have moved on, and now this is permitted, and it's viewed as a value added to this historical areas. And that also helps us reactivate the gastronomy industry and the dining industry in our country. So each of the World Heritage cities are moving forward towards making their areas more pedestrian friendly, recovering the historical landscape and strengthening tourism in a way that is compatible with each of our historical centers. Everything that I've mentioned, recovering the cultural, tangible and intangible heritage, results in the development of the tourism industry as a driver that will allow us to continue moving forward towards recovering our monumental heritage sites to further enrich our citizens and our visitors.
Now I have the pleasure to introduce Mr. Francisco Mugaburu. He's the Subdirector of International Relations and Cooperation of the Union of Ibero-American Capital Cities, UCCI, that is part of the World Organization of United Cities and Local Governments, the UCLG. Estimado Francisco, un placer tenerlos con nosotros hoy.
Bueno, muy buenos días.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here participating in this panel representing, as Muriel said, the UCLG, and we're members of that. I want to greet each one of the present panelists and those who spoke before me, and I want to greet on behalf of General Director Ana Roman, that unfortunately was not able to join us today. So taking on the last word of the interventions is to recognize the big presentations that have been shared, clarifying the valuable heritage that we have in our Latin American Caribbean region. And it will add to Ibero-America. From our organization, we also have the Iberian Peninsula and those strategies that are promoted for recovering the sustainable development through the knowledge exchange, exchanging resources, experience, and joint efforts. I just want to share briefly what the UC is. It's the Union of Ibero-American Capital Cities with more than 40 years of work, and it's comprised by 29 large cities and capitals from the Ibero-American region to promote solidarity and to strengthen the links between local governments in Ibero-America through initiatives that have as their main focus to strengthen the relationship of the economy and culture between Spanish and Portuguese culture to innovate in the sustainability in line with the 2030 agenda. So the technical cooperation and the exchange of experiences and to strengthen capacities and knowledge management, these are the pillars of our daily work that we push forward through close relationships between our member cities focused in priorities like economic development, tourism, innovation, culture, policies, the environment and sustainability, which is one of the guidelines that we have here. So for all cities in our Ibero-American region, the pandemic of COVID-19 generated problems, and yet it was an emergency to transform our urban centers and to rethink the governance modules, both for economic, social, and environmental sectors. So in this sense, we are very clear that to overcome the crisis and to be able to recover sustainably, having more resilient, sustainable cities will depend on the capacity of being able to generate and promote joint responses that are innovative. So also I want to share with you about the Ibero-American strategy that we're promoting from the OC. We've already mentioned that tourism has been one of the most hard-hit sectors, and it had affected employment, mobility, and social economical development. Because of this setting, UC has focused its efforts in Ibero-American tourism strategy for the future, focused on the innovation and sustainable development. This initiative has work in tourism and cities like Mexico City, Lima, Bogota, Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, Madrid, and Andorra. All of them are members of our organization. This initiative that is quite innovative, it's a tool to have the economic recovery of the sector for a sustainable world beyond the pandemic, to strengthen the touristic identity of the cities. So it's a milestone here, and it's an instrument to recover this together with the SDGs, the efficient use and sustainable use of natural resources, and to re-strengthen cultural rights, to focus people and the planet. So this initiative, we're bringing it forth with the support of strategic partners such as the World Tourism Organization and CGLU. So the importance is cultural wealth that characterizes our region, and we'll also reflect this in all 17 cooperation projects that we are pushing forward in this year 2021, and then the work with our partners. So these 17 projects that we've been implemented are looking to comply with the 2030 Agenda and SDG, supporting the exchange of knowledge and to strengthen public policies within local governments. Specifically, I would like to highlight among all of these projects that focus on tourism as a tool to recover cities through the value of culture and heritage as essential elements for sustainability, promoted by Bogota, the governance sector for Bogota. Its purpose is to generate a module for the 20th century America based on the crisis and the pandemic impact, and based on the people, the planet as key aspects. So this project, we are doing it with Buenos Aires, Panama, Santo Domingo, and Mexico. And the idea is to exchange best practices between the cities within our network. Also, this initiative it's quite important because it highlights the heritage, which is part of the diversity that characterizes our cities. From OC, we are aware of this flagship and to develop our cities on innovation and sustainability in our roadmap to explore and create strategies, innovative strategies, and we want to highlight the heritage that our cities have. 14 cities have outstanding universal values. I'm going to list it, and colleagues from different countries, I'm just saying those that are members of UC, which are large cities and capitals. It does not mean that it's all cities that have World Heritage within the country. So these are Mexico City, that has been the capitals from 2021, Panama City, Habana, Santo Domingo, Sucre, Bolivia, Brasilia, which is Ibero-American capital in 2022, Rio de Janeiro, Quito, Lima, Caracas, Lisboa, Mali, recently with the light landscape Barcelona, and the San Juan city with the San Juan de Puerto Rico fortress. And to wrap up, I just want to focus on the cities. They are global agents for the development of sustainable cultural policies in a very big context of good opportunities to be able to meet the 2030 agenda and SDGs. And it's very valuable to have our heritage here to promote this. At the same time, we've created several initiatives and we've shared ideas that will drive the innovative modules to keep on working in the cities through our networks and other international organizations as UNESCO to recover and to preserve our heritage and to help all of our people through the value of culture for sustainable tourism and sustainable development. From our perspective, I just want to clarify two main ideas. The key rule that is essential from the cooperation, specifically when it's about exchanging information as essential tools for recovery and all the capital of heritage and cultural assets that we have, and we need to conserve even more now to have a sustainable future. Thank you very much.
Ahora entramos, we would like to start. We have time for some questions. I know that we finished now our presentations, and we are a bit behind time. So what I'm going to propose is that I read the 3 questions we have in our Q&A box. So I'll leave it open for panelists to who would like to intervene. Just raise your hands. I'll read your signs, and we can address them very quickly. Well, the first question: are network sites, museums, and cultural centers fully opened after the pandemic due to COVID? How to maintain your networks in good health and working together? That's the second one. And the third one is how to include tourism municipal managers in your projects. So I'll look around, whoever would like to intervene, just raise your hand. And the idea is to have a bit of a discussion. You are the specialists. So the floor, yeah, Jorge, go ahead.
Thanks, Muriel, and thanks for the question. Regarding if the places, the museums, the historical areas are open, at this moment in Mexico they are open. As some of you may know, the health federal authorities manage this through a green light. So now at this moment, almost all the states in Mexico are in green light, and that means that all the historical areas can be open. And that happened recently, maybe, if I am not wrong, 1 month they have been fully open. Regarding how we managed to have this dynamic with this synergy with the authorities and with the cities, we hold 4 general assemblies of mayors, and we have a group of tourist authorities also of the cities, and we gather together 4 times a year, and that has helped us to keep on going all our programs, all our projects. Of course, with always we have invited the authorities. The UNESCO has accompanied us in these general assemblies, and the federal authorities regarding World Heritage and all the authorities also that are related with tourism. They accompanied us in these meetings, and in that way we have been able to have our programs alive. And as I mentioned in my presentation, we just celebrated 25 years of age. And as I mentioned, the tourist group, it gathers all the officials that are related on tourism of these World Heritage Mexican cities. And we have programs, and of course we give a follow-up through these regular meetings with all of them. So it's a permanent communication and permanent follow-up to the programs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorge. Very quickly, please, Arsenio and Francisco. If Arsenio first.
Yes, here in Habana, for instance, we have the economic reactivation. We have more than 400 connections, weekly connections to different airports in the country. All cultural centers, museums, theaters are already open. Luckily, here in Cuba, we only have 200 confirmed cases for COVID. So luckily we have more openness still. It does not reach the same rhythm that we used to have for our regular cultural activities. For smaller cities like Alagoa, that it's in the east, very close to Haiti, or Viñales, we're still not having that much tourism, but the larger cities that have more connectivity, we already have a very essential development there. And also we've established in our network the reactivation of opening some ticket offices and to sell several packages for local tourism to foster Cuban citizens to also have a destination in other areas that are not as connected, but to open those areas and to promote this reactivation. And from the cultural perspective, the cities are waking up once again. All the tradition of pregonero, of dancing, of activities, community activities, theaters in all communities are already opening up. So this is a good sign that we're having some progress going forward. Thank you, Arsenio. Francisco, you have the floor. Very briefly, I just answer how to involve the directors or generals for tourism. In UNOSSC, we've been quite obsessive because this is what concretes or makes the actions real. And UCLG, we generate a work commission, we analyze why these cities, and also we work to a certain extent as an onion because each layer has a sense. The project for the metropolitan region makes Bogota to have the tourism office working with Andorra, which has the vice chair of tourism development. So for us to really look which cities we're going to work with certain topics and to involve the technical aspect to push forward concrete actions, this is essential. And this hand in hand, obviously, with partnerships. UCLG, UNESCO, and they also participated in future tourism. Partnerships are essential. And now more than ever from UC, we're generating partnerships with Public Transport Union, UNESCO, and we keep promoting this because we are convinced that together, and I don't want you to see this as a trite phrase, but together we identify problems and together we find solutions. Thank you very much.
For bringing the South-South cooperation perspective here at the end of our panel. And no one better than our next speaker. So for the closing remarks of our event, now it's my great pleasure to give the floor to Xiaojun Grace Wang, our Deputy Director for the United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation, to provide the summary of today's discussion and give the closing remarks. Dear Grace, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Muriel. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you for UNESCO Mexico to open this important event. Thank you all for the panelists today for sharing your knowledge on sustainable and cultural tourism. Your insights represent collective wisdom from the many members, member cities, and local authorities of your network and association, which makes the knowledge you shared today even more powerful and more relevant for creating and enhancing South-South and triangular cooperation opportunities. The potential of tourism towards accelerating sustainable development is highly recognizable. People travel for expanding life horizon, for gaining cultural, educational, business, and recreational experiences. In the meanwhile, the tourism sector is the source of livelihood for many people around the world. It accounted for over 10% of world GDP and employment before the pandemic. If well managed, the sector can generate quality jobs, durable growth, reduce poverty, offer incentives for environmental conservation. It's indeed offering a triple win to help countries recover from the pandemic and transition towards a more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable future. However, this triple win is not achieved automatically. Without proper safeguarding and investment, expanding tourism sometimes can increase pressure on social equality issues, on cultural assets, and on biodiversity and the ecosystem on which the livelihood of so many people and local communities depend. So that is the knowledge you shared today, why it is of great value at such a historic moment when the world is looking to recover steadily from the pandemic with a redesign of development and growth patterns, especially right after the COP26. Today, we heard experiences from heritage cities in Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Cuba, and Peru about the importance of capacity development, engagement of local communities and local content, and leveraging tourism to benefit all people, on how sustainable tourism involves many measures. In order to recover, we need to leverage digitalization and promoting local cultural assets internationally, raising visibility and awareness, engaging local cultural authorities. At the United Nations, we consider knowledge as assets that once shared can trigger more partners to work together to adapt those solutions to more countries, communities, and benefit more people. So we recognize that cities and local partners are important players in South-South and triangular cooperation. They often represent the voice of people, demand-driven approach, and people-centered strategy. The United Nations Office for South-South Cooperation initiated the South-South Cities Project to promote such cooperation at local level to connect local stakeholders. Also in partnership with UN agencies, civil society organizations, so that we can all support cities to work with each other in advancing sustainable development. The COVID-19 crisis is a major shock for the most vulnerable people in developing countries. The recovery of tourism and business will largely rely on the capacities of local stakeholders, communities, and partners to utilize new technologies and digital innovation, but more importantly, to learn from each other's knowledge. Under the Cities Project, we launched this webinar series entitled Travel South over Cloud, South-South Cooperation in Promoting Tourism for Sustainable Development Against the Backdrop of COVID Recovery. This was launched in 2020, but we received so much enthusiasm. So many partners joined us along the way. So that's why today, this is the 5th version of this series. Representatives from the United Nations, national and local authorities from 15 countries, 24 cities, and many more cities and local communities represented by city networks and associations like today, exchanged good practices and experiences in leveraging digitalization, in engaging local communities, in heritage preservation and cultural tourism development, promoting creative economy and ensuring livelihood for all people, promoting e-commerce and small and medium enterprise development for inclusive and sustainable tourism. The series was made possible with great partners. Collaboration with the institutional relations and partnerships, the UN World Tourism Organization, the UNESCO, the UN Economic Commission for Africa, the National Association of Mexican World Heritage Cities, the UNESCO World Heritage Institute of Training and Research for Asia and Pacific, the China Association of Trade and Services, you name it, many, many more. The webinar series received great feedback and reached approximately over 1 million live views. Moreover, it fostered South-South partnerships through concrete actions. One example is the collaboration between UNOSSC, UNESCO Mexico, and National Association of Mexican Association of World Heritage Cities, which had later evolved into a pilot project in Mexico in 2021 this year to promote mutual learning, capacity building, digital transformation for sustainable tourism, and promoting the outstanding universal values of World Heritage Cities in Mexico and other countries. To facilitate more such real-time demand-driven exchanges with cities and UN agencies, the South-South Cities Cluster, the online community space, is now hosted on South-South Galaxy platform. We would also like to invite our World Heritage Cities and associations in Latin America and the Caribbean to join the South-South Cities Cluster and foster partnerships and project cooperation. Another exciting news and platform that UNOSSC is offering is the Global South-South Development Expo. This is a flagship event offered by UNOSSC to showcase evidence-based development solutions and initiatives from partners all around the world. The 11th Expo will be co-hosted by the government of Thailand and UNOSSC in Bangkok, Thailand, from 12 to 14 September next year, 2022, under the theme of advancing South-South and triangular cooperation for sustainable COVID-19 recovery towards a smart and resilient future. Sustainable tourism recovery is inevitably one of the top focus of the GSSD Expo 2022. I would like to end my closing remarks by a short video about GSSD Expo 2022. I hope you enjoyed today's exchanges and welcome you all join the Cities Cluster and the GSSD Expo 2022.
I'm a strong believer in South-South cooperation as a key instrument for the implementation of the Agenda 2030 and for a fair globalization.
Dear audience, we're at the end of another Travel South of a Cloud. Thank you very much for attending our event today and showcasing and promoting sustainable tourism, protecting world cultural and natural heritage, and in identifying South-South and triangular cooperation as an enabling tool for those development goals. As you can see, we have the South-South Cities Cluster, we have the Global South-South Development Expo 2022, and many other things that we'd love to share with you and build a community of World Heritage Cities to come and join us. So please check the UNOSSC website to learn more, and please reach out to us anytime for this. Before bidding you farewell, I would like a picture with all the panelists, with our representatives. So we can just open your cameras. And thank you. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much. A beautiful farewell. Good evening to the colleagues in Asia. Good night, good day. good afternoon in Europe, good day in Latin America. I know Mexico woke up very early. Thank you so much for coming, colleagues. Thank you. This is a community. Let's keep in touch. Let's continue cooperation. Thank you.